All praises to the Most High. This is Elliot. Today I want to talk about something that many of us go through on a daily basis. However, there may not be much discussion because many of us handle this differently. And that's how are we supposed to engage with this world, this matrix, as God's chosen, as the chosen ones of God, those called, set apart, and living for the Most High, but still having to operate in this wicked, evil matrix. I find it necessary to talk about this for many reasons, because many of us are going through primarily this on a daily basis, where we have to literally delineate and make conscious decisions of how far into the world are we going to go, and how much do we literally compromise of ourselves in order to do what's necessary for us to go along and get along until the Most High sends Yahshua to return for us. And why this is important is because we are very much a part of this world system. Even though spiritually, when we're called out, when the Most High sets us up in order to be what we need to be for Him, the spiritual transition takes place, but yet we still wake up and have to operate, live, breathe, work, communicate, do all the things that's necessary in this matrix, in this world. And when doing so, how much of ourselves do we allow to connect with the worldly things that are around us? And how much do we have to comply and conform to fit into the world system? Today, I want to talk about what I believe from the scriptures is that the most important thing for us to understand when dealing with the world. The most important part of us making sure that when we engage in this matrix is that we do not yield or be overcome or succumb to evil. And that's very, very easy to do when the world kind of gets a little bit of a hook into you, right? If you are able to make a compromise in one area, say for more pay, say for more friends, say for more prestige and power, would that continue to make you more and more so to yield yourself to more of the evil influences that are in this world? And the reason why I'm saying that is because every day we're tested. And every day we have choices to make in order to say, what am I going to do in order to provide for myself, provide for my family, in terms of what kind of jobs do I work? What kind of career paths do I take? In terms of education, what type of schools do I go to? What type of schools do I send my children to? All right, there's so many things, so many decisions that we have to make in terms of waiting for the return of Yahshua and this whole thing to come to a conclusion, especially now since the major transitions has happened in the past 5 years and that we're undergoing right now, this world reset, where things may have not been to the point where we had to really question every single decision that was made like we once did, like we do now. Because before, things kind of flowed a little bit more simply, right? It was a little bit easier to just kind of go out and intermingle with the world. Things have not changed so much. People had not changed so much. So many things that were considered wrong were still kind of considered wrong, but now they're considered right. Okay? So when we think about this, we have to realize that what's coming upon us very quickly is the fact that as the world starts to conclude and things start to happen, we have to make sure that we are staying true to the word of the Most High and are not allowing ourselves to be overcome by the evil influences that the matrix may provide. And this is going to be a case-by-case thing. Like each and every one of us are going to have to go through this in some type of way. If it's not making decisions for ourselves, it could be making decisions for our family members, or even being around and involved with some family members. So the most important takeaway from this short talk that I want to have today is that we need to remain away and abstain from evil, okay? And if you feel to the point that you're really compromising yourself to a point where you know that you may be doing just a little bit too much, you may be accepting too much outside of the will or what the word has written, then pray, submit to the Most High God, and allow Him to deliver you from that situation. Because I believe that according to how the word is written, that is His desire for us to stay on track and intact in every sense of the word, okay? And so when it comes to making compromises or exposing ourselves to certain things, the Most High will step in supernaturally to save us from certain situations so we don't have to go through certain things at certain times. This is a very, very important concept because I know there might be a lot of you facing this right now. Where do I send my children to school? What type of curriculum do I allow my children to go to? You know, I want to go into a certain industry for my career. However, I know this industry may have so many ties to the world system and the beast system that can literally take me and get me involved in some things that I'm not really comfortable being involved with. However, I still have to make moves in this world, and if I sit around and do nothing, then what's going to happen? How am I going to make it? So, as those who are called, chosen, and set apart for the Most High, you have to know that, look, in John chapter 14, John chapter 17, I think is when he talks about, the scripture is mostly misquoted. It says being in this world, but not of this world. But that's basically where it's talked about. That whole chapter, basically, Yahshua was speaking to the Father and saying, look, I did this, I did this, I did this. And, you know, I helped your people for your sake. I did this, I completed my work. But I know because I'm not of this world, I was rejected. And the things that I told the people and they received about the Father, about Him, about the greater works, about life forever, because they have received this, because we are the ones who are called, chosen, and set apart, we received this. We are also not of this world. And not being of this world, we have to make sure that we take into account that we're going to have to operate differently. And it seems like the easiest thing to do is really become a deep hermit, aka recluse, and just completely separate yourself from it completely. And there's a time and season for that. But you still have to emerge. You still have to get out there and go into the matrix. And speaking of the Matrix, let's talk about the movie. You know that there's times where, if you've seen the movie The Matrix, that they have the time when they're on the ship, right? And then that's when they're kind of secluded, they're doing whatever they do. But there's times where they have to go and complete missions and go into the world, okay? And I would say that when you go into the world, you have to be very deliberate. You have to be protected. You have to know. You have to have your support group. You have to do everything that you do to make sure that you stay on task and not allow evil to creep in and pull you away from the Most High in any way. This is the most important part, that you do not succumb to evil. And if there's things that are out there that you're doing, the temptations are too high, you know, pray that the Holy Spirit leads and guides you each and every step of the way of what you're going through. Because there's times where, you know, you can just be involved. And like I said, a hook can be put into you, or you can be tugged into a direction and go a lot further than you want to go. And this takes practice, it takes spiritual discipline, and it takes a lot of accountability. And if you don't have an accountability partner, then just be prayed up to make sure that when you do what you need to do, know that you have the protection and the assurance of the Most High and His Spirit to keep you in place and to protect you. So being prayed up is very important. Again, I say this today is because a lot of us have a lot of decisions to make, especially as this world is opening up more so. And there's things that we need to get done. There's things we need to complete and do, yet still until the end. And we have to know that all the things in this world, they're not really created. Once you become that super connected spiritual being, aka chosen, set apart for the Most High, then you'll start to see the world differently. So when you have to go and operate in it, some of it requires a little bit of pretending, a lot of keeping your mouth shut, all right? But at the same time, you can still make it, but you need the Spirit to do so. And I pray that this touches and reaches you guys somewhere to the point of where you are. I think this is an important message that that you can go back to and just remind yourself that as you're going through these things out here in the public, in the matrix, in the world, that there are times that we need to make sure that we're refraining, abstaining from evil, not being overly influenced, but yet doing what's necessary and praying that the Holy Spirit, the Ruach of the Father, will lead us, guide us, and protect us along the way. Because I'm telling you, I've seen too many times where in the past, okay, where people, this is before people really started to wake up and get serious about, at least the people that I know, wake up and get serious. And, they just get a little bit of taste of some of the world and they want more and they want more and they want more of it. Well, it should be very easy to see that there is nothing worth holding on to or striving for in this wicked place anymore. All right. But yet we're still here to be a part of it. And that's just the craziest concept ever, right? So the supernatural part is believing that if you don't compromise, if you yield, and if you just kind of go through the motion, and there's times that you're going to have to kind of go through the motions, especially in education, especially, certain times when you're at the workplace or when you're involved with groups and stuff like that. But at the same time, just making sure that the Spirit's there to protect you and keep you from evil, and that you have that discernment and that you have that conviction to make sure to know that if you feel like find yourself going astray or too far one way, that you reel it back in and you go and regroup. All right. All praises to the Most High. This is Elliot. And shalom.